Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be looking at chess principles and how to improve at chess and get to 1600 and above. And I have to say this is just from my personal experience. From all these years I've spent playing chess, I feel like if these things are done, it is easier to get to these levels and get your elo up. This is just from my personal experience. I feel like these things are overlooked. Some of these things I'm gonna mention here are overlooked when it comes to chess, so I'm just gonna be addressing some of them here. This is gonna be a 3-part series or a 2-part. I didn't want to put everything into a single video and make it long and boring, so I'm just gonna put it into parts. And so stick around till the end, guys. If you enjoy it, like and subscribe. And let's get right into it. This is one of the most important things that we're going to look at today, and it doesn't matter if you're a beginner, advanced, or intermediate, or even a grandmaster. This is one of the first things that you need to master in order to get better at chess. This will get you like 10 times better if you do this properly. So it's just opening principles. You need to learn openings. You can't just play chess. You need to learn the openings. You need to learn the complete openings. When I say the openings, I don't mean just the first 6 moves or 8 moves. You need to learn the complete opening and its variations. Now let's look at an example. Let's say I play the Queen's Gambit, and here comes the variation. There are 2 ways. Now there are 2 ways this game can go. Either my opponent takes my pawn, which is a Queen's Gambit accepted variation, or my opponent plays his pawn, which is basically the Queen's Gambit declined variation. So here I can either push this pawn, or I can just open up my pieces, or I can let this pawn go. I can open up my bishop and let him take the pawn and still play. This is also another variation where you get the center, but then you give up a pawn which you can win later. If my opponent pushes this, I can push. I open up my rook file as well, and so I can bring my knight, everything else after that. So basically you need to learn the variations as well. It's not just about learning a particular opening, be it any opening. There are tons of variations in openings, and you need to learn every one of them. Pick an opening, pick 2 or 3 openings and master them. Play a lot of games with them so that you get to know how each of your opponent reacts. For example, my favorite opening, one of my favorites, is Caro-Kann. I've played over 1000 games with Caro-Kann. So when I play Caro-Kann, whatever move my opponent makes, I know the first few sets of moves up until the middle game. So it's easier to get an advantage over your opponent. It really helps. If your opening is good and you get the center and the advantage over your opponent, and you make your opponent open up, it's good for you. It gives you a higher percentage of chance to win the game. So yeah, that's it, guys. So that's opening principle for you. You need to pick an opening, learn those variations, and also be smart as to which opening you're gonna do. I'm not gonna play Caro-Kann every time my opponent, regardless of what opening my opponent does. If white is playing, let's say, King's Indian or Italian or even French, I'm gonna play something different. I'm not gonna just spam Caro-Kann every time. So so you need to learn the openings, guys. That's the most important thing. So this was just an example. There are tons of openings I can do. There are tons of things to learn. And I'll be making videos as well on these in the future. I'll pick out every opening and I'll help you guys get through it. And also you can just look at others' videos. There are tons of YouTube videos covering each opening. So that's it, guys. That's just one of the things I wanted to cover. So in this video. So let's move on to the next one. Knowing when to castle is just as important as castling itself. So for in this position for black, it's advisable to castle to the king side, since black is heavily guarded by its pieces, and it's very difficult for white to penetrate the black's king, attack the black's king. But for white, it's not recommended to castle to the queen side, since white has already committed so many pawns to the black side, and black can just push its pawns and ruin the pawn structure and eventually push all its pieces to black square and start attacking white's pieces. So that's why knowing when to castle is very important, as now white is in a terrible position. It's not super bad, but it is pretty bad. Once we exchange all of the pawns, black gets an opening as well to the king. Black can see the king now. There is no pawn in front of the king protecting it. So basically now white is open to fork and everything. Um. So yeah, it's generally not recommended. Instead, what white can do is just instead of castling to the queen side, they can take this bishop out, and they can just castle to the king side, and they are safe, regardless. It's not a terrible position now. So that's the thing, guys. Knowing when to castle is just as important as castling itself. You need to be smart about it. Castling to queen side is beneficial in certain cases, but then you need to know and you need to decide what is best for you depending on the situation. So knowing how to read the situations is very important in chess, and it's not just about the memorization, you know and stuff like that. Knowing what to do depending on the situation and improvising and adapting to the situation is just as important as memorizing the openings and middle games and end games and so on, etc., etc. So yeah, let's move on to the next one, guys. Now this is the next one we're going to be talking about. It's a method called stalling, which typically every player uses to readjust their position and rethink their tactics. So this is what stalling means. So as you can see in this game, both black and white don't really have any game changing moves. Therefore, both black and white make minor movements on the board, such as readjusting their pieces till they figure out a tactic to penetrate the opposition's defense. Let's say in this position, black just plays the knight back, or they can just go here and then push this pawn. So basically, they do have a tactic, but then it's more like just making an adjustment, trying not to make an overcommitment without thinking it through. So that's the biggest thing about stalling, is that you don't really commit yourself to a tactic or a move which you haven't thought through. So basically what this does is it does save you time. So it saves you a lot of time as well, and it makes sure that you don't make any sort of big commitment without thinking it through. And also there's another thing, that when you are stalling for moves, when let's say you do this and I do something like this, and then you do this, and then I just bring my queen forward, and you just make another movement. So let's say queen to e7, and then I move my knight again. So basically this is called stalling. You just wait for either for your opponent to make a mistake or an overcommitment. Let's say my opponent does this, I can do an en passant, so therefore opening up the king side, and then I can take the pawn, I can go inside, penetrate. So you either wait for your opponent to make a mistake, or you just keep stalling until you figure out a tactic. Let's say now in this position my knight is open, so now my knight is open to attack. Let's say my opponent goes somewhere, he pushes this pawn, I don't even care about it, I can just push, and he does this, I would have this, and all he has to do is defend. Now I get a rook, and yeah, so that's how you play, and I win a pawn. So basically, to summarize, stalling is either for you to just wait till you think of a tactic, until then you just make minor movements on the board, therefore saving you time as well, which is a crucial part of chess, especially in the end games. It will come in handy. And whilst you wait and make these minor adjustments, You hope for your opponent to make a mistake and overcome it themselves, which you can seize advantage on. And yeah, that's basically stalling. Now again, this is not an official rule. This is not an official and legal rule recognized by FIDE nor the chess.com. uh, to be honest, it is kind of despised upon. FIDE actually has a rule against stalling. So yeah, making repeated moves or minor moves without any motive is kind of frowned upon by FIDE. Um. So yeah, but this is something that every player uses. Even the grandmasters, every player does this to think for themselves and to just have that small mental advantage. Anything helps. Basically, that's the whole point. Anything in chess, it helps. So yeah, that's stalling, guys. Make sure to use this in your next game. And now let's move on to the next one. At this point, the game looks pretty equal. Black has a slight advantage positional wise, but white does have a good position, and it's not losing outright. But here, white makes a crucial mistake of pushing the pawn 2 squares, which weakens the pawn structure and allows my knight to penetrate. And in the next few moves, white goes on to lose the game, and this is how it happens. So I bring my knight in, white tries to defend the rook, and boom, I give a check, fork it, and I win a rook. And from here on, I just castle, and the pawn structure is weakened. So I just go on to trade the pieces, and yeah, I traded the rooks, and here my opponent resigned. So this is why knowing when to push pawns is very crucial, as it can decide the whole games. Even for 1600s, 800s, or even grandmasters, doesn't matter who it is. You need to know when to push the pawns. It decides the whole game, guys. The middle game entirely depends on that. So that's just one more tip. Focus on maintaining the pawn structures and knowing when to push the pawns. Because once you push the pawns, there is no coming back. The pawn can only go forward. So unlike other pieces where you can bring them back, like a knight or a bishop or a queen, when you move a pawn, that's it. So remember, this is very crucial. Know when to push the pawns and don't weaken your pawn structure. It might look like you have a good position, like as did white over here. When they pushed the pawn, it looked like it was a good position, but it just weakened the pawn structure and ruined the whole game for white. So yeah, that's just one more tip. Know when to push pawns, and that's it. Here's another game I played showing when to push pawns and why it is so important to push pawns, especially in endgames. So in this position, I push my pawns and black push their pawns, and this is a mistake they make where I get the center. As you can see in the evaluation bar, it goes way high, and yeah, black makes this mistake. I give them a check, and basically black pawns are trapped, including mine. So I just give a check, let the king move that side away from the black pawns, and I just push it. I sacrifice that pawn, and then I just end up winning 2 of their pawns and push mine, and that's it. I make a queen, and in this position my opponent resigned. So that's it for the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. I'll be putting out part 2 soon. So yeah, stick around, guys, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.